A slightly abbreviated episode this time round, as frankly I'm working more hours than should rightfully be packed into a day in the lead up to sea trials, so timing the edit has had to take a step back. But I do appreciate the scale of the misery that my incomplete posting of Painting Alan Part 1, but not Part 2, has caused, so here you go. I forgot to slide this bit into the first episode, but on the third go I did improve my roller technique well enough to complete the Stearns paint job. It had been something of a practice piece for me, and I did have to sand out little bubbles, roller edge marks, and general rookie errors with a 400 grit paper before the final coat. Here on Alan's bow, which I do always seem to do last as it's not quite as accessible, there was some additional prep work to do. To protect wiring for the floodlights getting bashed about or bleached in the sun, I'd months ago slipped on some cheap plastic cabling conduit, the basic brittle sort that you'd find in an office. So this had to come off so I could tidy away the electrics properly and have space to do the paintwork. Whilst running cabling through the railings was an option, I want easier access, and silicone cabling is so flexible that it's hard to push wiring through long tubes without it getting stuck. This was the final section where I installed the click lock UV resistant cable tidy strips. They come in different diameters depending on how much cabling you need to pack in. The railings have been given a black coating, so I wanted to rub this back to bare metal with an 80 grit paper and scratch the surface so adhesives can grab on. Then the pre-cut lengths could be placed. It's rigid, so there are gaps where there's a slight direction change to match the curve of the railing tube, formerly known as sprinkler tube. It's pretty easy to slide the silicone sheathed wires in and click the trunking closed, of course easy to reopen if there's a need to add or to change the wiring later. For belt and braces, I seal the interface with basic polyurethane, which will also help adhere the plastic to the steel. Pooling of water, whether seawater or rain, is bad news, and this design means that the trunking will self-drain due to the angles and open ends. For where the rigid trunking is impossible, I've opted for spiral conduit instead of angled trunking, as it's quicker and more flexible. With the area neatened up and cleared of trailing wires and so on, I did my standard pre-paint preparation of the old gel coat. A machine sander to strip away the old surface and provide a key for paint, and then fabric sandpaper wrapped around a finger for the details. However, I did find this grinder attachment for my drill useful for getting into more stubborn lumps and extraneous filler or sealant. Again, the Bostik sealant I like here, as it's the right hardness to sand and paint without it gumming up the sandpaper. So, more painting, and a heartwarming proof that in general, the starboard side of Alan is suspiciously similar to the port side. I'd have preferred a warmish but overcast day, but the alternating warm sun and chilly interludes didn't make the judgment too tough over painting speed, technique, and how much thinner to use in the paint. I found once or twice that I've mixed up a modest amount of thinner, not wanting to end up having to apply bonkers numbers of coats, and then the sun comes out and accelerates the cure speed on the warm boat hull. For viewers amongst you hell-bent on anarchy, and therefore watching Part 2 before Part 1, a quick reminder that I'm using 2-pack polyurethane paint, which cures chemically and not through the evaporation of a volatile solvent like normal paints do. Cold temperatures can make it more gloopy, and hot temperatures can make it flow better, but cure faster. So the amount of thinner can be hard to balance right in changing conditions. Luckily, if you do screw up, you can gently sand the surface back and try again, but I'm determined to complete the paint job with just the one 5-litre can and a few litres of Xylene thinner. So aside from the top hatch area, which needs some construction work completed before it gets its own coat, the rest of Alan's top side is now coated to a point that I'm comfortable it's protecting the bleached and tired gel coat. I'm going to do another thin yet carefully applied final coat all over later on, just to optimise the surface finish and protect Alan from the sun and the elements that little bit better. Paint detailing can follow, which basically means adding lots of black squares in places I didn't want to try and edge carefully in orange paint with a brush. I never said that I was a courageous boat painter. I'm not at the stage yet, but you'll notice that below Alan's fender strip, his gel coat isn't looking as stellar. It's the original surface with filler repairs and all sorts of marks. Can any experts, whether actually with expertise or not, offer any tips as to what system of anti-fouling to consider? The assertions offered without expertise are fun, and there's no reason anti-fouling debates shouldn't be fun. With sea trials coming up in a week or so, and a special extended episode planned for it, I'd really appreciate any support you might have for my channel, whether donating a little each month, buying fashion-defining Alan t-shirts or caps, or of course enhancing your own personal excellence by reading one of my books. Reading 2 makes you doubly excellent. 3, well, you can only imagine. Bye.